a million times this year. 2020 is the year of Zoom and the year of virtual. So a lot of times I get asked, especially in the last 7 months, how are you an environmental educator in this time? Like, what do you actually do? So I'm going to talk to you guys today about what we do and how we're doing it now virtually, and what kind of has changed as far as environmental and ecological education. So I'm going to go ahead and share this with you guys. And then maybe. All right. Hopefully all of you guys see the big screen and not the, okay, perfect. All right. So my topic was the great outdoors indoors, which does not sound very exciting, but I'm kind of going to talk a little bit about what we do virtually, and not just some of the events that we've done virtually, but how almost honestly that virtual, having us have COVID and having this virtual world that we're living in now, has almost enabled us to reach a different audience. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how we've kind of changed what we do and how we're doing it, but also it's kind of a good thing because we're realizing what people are underserved, and where the actual relevancy is to meet those needs of those people. So we'll go ahead and get started. So thanks for having me. I really appreciate talking about this. I'm excited. A lot of these things that we're going to talk about today are really exciting to do, and I'm really excited to share them with you. So really quick, I just want to talk a little bit about if you're not familiar with the education division at Game and Parks, it started off with like 2 people. So in 2012, I started as a temporary. I was actually a staff assistant on paper. So not even necessarily on paper was I environmental educator. When I started, there was me and Lindsay Rogers. There was 2 people. But we did a lot. It's just really hard to do a lot with 2 people. So I became a permanent employee in 2016. There are still 2 people in what we called our ecological education. And if you're familiar with Game and Parks, or you're familiar with coming to our office ever in the past, we always got kind of stuck in the corner, or we're through a maze or something. It was super hard to find us. But here we are now. We've moved 4 offices in 5 years. We're finally, hopefully, at our like landing point right now. And we were able to finally unpack our boxes. And in 2019, in July, we became the Fish and Wildlife Education Division. So as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know, we are one of the only, if not the only, state agency that has a ecological education division strictly devoted to that ecological education. So we found our permanent office. We became I became the wildlife education specialist and also the Nebraska Project Wild Coordinator. We gained 2 more staff in October and in January. So in the past like 12 months, we have almost doubled, tripled our staff. By August 2020, we had 7 people. And excitingly enough, we're going to hire a citizen science coordinator here soon. So very exciting, and ecological education at Game and Parks and in the state of Nebraska is highly growing, which is very nice to hear, and it's empowering to hear as well. So a little bit about our historical constituency, the people that we have normally reached, and kind of our normal things that we have done. I'm going to be honest, our constituency has been a lot of white, often male hunters and anglers. Not always is that who we're reaching, but that is a majority of the people that we have reached in the past. You can see from those statistics and percentage-wise, Caucasians, very high. Our hunters, our anglers, our males and our female bases has definitely been changing, and that's good. We want it to change. Hunting and angling on the some side here, has decreased dramatically. This is not something that's new to any of us. We know that the amount of hunters that we have is decreasing. The amount of anglers is kind of staying the same. And I think even during COVID, it went up, because what else are people doing? So, but especially in places like Nebraska, we know that our hunter amount of hunters is decreasing. So how are we reaching those other people that are not hunters? We need to reach what we call those underserved audiences. So really quick, I just want to show you this gender of hunters and this gender of anglers. Females are going to be the blue portion, and then the males are going to be the orange. So definite amount of more amount of males than there are females in either of those hunter and angler categories. All right, so the racial demographic of our hunters and our anglers is very different as well. The big blue amount that you see in that pie are those white Caucasian males and females. So we do have a few Hispanic, we have a few African Americans, but as you can see, that is not normally a group of people that we have reached a lot in the past. All right, so when we talk about this underserved audience, who and what are we actually talking about? So it's a segment of that community that is not currently being served by an organization or is being underrepresented. So I'm not saying that we're not reaching those underserved audiences by any means. I'm just saying it's not one that we have really have a lot going in that direction. They're underrepresented is a good word. So when we say that, it's not just the race, it is sexual orientation, it's heritage, it's skill level, it is backgrounds, religious belief, even the geographic location of people in Nebraska, Western Nebraska versus Eastern versus Central. Those are underserved audiences. So it's not by any means just looking at race, it's a lot of different things as well. So I promise this will get to virtual. I promise there's a method to this. So if you're waiting for the virtual things, I promise I'm getting there. All right, so a little bit you guys just heard about LEAD here, so I won't go into too much depth about it. But if you weren't on this last talk, Tiffany and Katie did a really good job at talking about LEAD. So LEAD is our annual workshop. We hopefully we'll do it next year, like Jamie mentioned, but it's mostly for 5th through 12th grade formal classroom teachers. So this is an underserved audience that Game and Parks is underrepresented as far as Game and Parks. Is that formal classroom teachers. We don't have a ton of stuff for them, but LEAD is a huge workshop that we do every single year. It's been very well received and it's been very popular. We actually take formal classroom educators and get them in the field in that specific BUL, that biologically unique landscape, and get them immersed in that area. So they are doing things like Tiffany talked about, tagging rattlesnakes or catching small mammals or learning about the geology of the area or the history of the area, in hopes that they will take that information back to their classrooms so that their students can kind of immerse themselves in that unit and that area of Nebraska as well. All right, so these are just a few things that we have done in the past with those students. We've had a lot of people from Game and Parks, a lot of partnering organizations come in and graciously donate their time to help us with this. So we've done natural legacy talks, we've done macroinvertebrate collecting, a lot of nocturnal listening, radio telemetry, pollinator plots, we've done Dutch oven cooking. So again, really immersing all of those educators in a wide variety of natural resource topics. All right, so why do we do LEAD? What's the point? So formal classroom educators, we want them to gain that knowledge, and a lot of it is that confidence and willingness to teach about Nebraska's ecosystems and habitats. So a lot of kids, it amazes me when I go into I just did a first grade program last week, and I would talk about what are some reptiles that you guys know about in Nebraska. I didn't hear like a single reptile that we have in Nebraska. It's like crocodiles, alligators, Komodo dragons, and those things are super cool, but we just don't have them in Nebraska. We always talk about going outside your backyard and you're more likely to see a western meadowlark or a Kentucky bluegrass, or you're seeing blue stem, or any of these really cool things that we have in Nebraska, but kids don't mention them. They're just simply not taught about them. And that was kind of a huge thing that we want to talk about LEAD, is that Nebraska is very cool and we have super awesome resources right outside our door that we can learn about. So we wanted to engage those educators in the outdoor classroom. So reaching those teachers, they're usually non-hunters, not all of them, but some of them are non-hunters. There are a lot of females, and that diversity in that geographic region that we talked about. We all know that the eastern side of Nebraska is where a majority of our population is, but that doesn't mean that there aren't people in central Nebraska or western Nebraska that we want to ignore or underrepresent as well. All right, so one of the things that we have done, we did a ton of Growing Up Wild educator workshops before COVID. I always would tell people I could do them in my sleep, and going that virtual route has definitely changed the game. So we're going to talk a little bit about why we do Growing Up Wild. So who does Growing Up Wild reach? If you are familiar, Growing Up Wild is a 3 through 7th grade, 3 through 7 year old, very young curriculum guide, environmental guide that teaches students about nature using different subject areas like social studies, language arts, those math, those kind of things. So using those at a very young age to get them interested in nature. So when we do those Growing Up Wild workshops over the past 12 months, it's been a huge majority, 98.7% females. That is kind of just our demographic, that the people that are reaching, they're usually white, a few Hispanic, Native American, and you can see the rest there. So for this instance, an underserved audience for Growing Up Wild would be a male. Males, good for you. You are an underserved audience for once. All right, so Growing Up Wild, looking at these things. Who are our participants? So racial demographics of Growing Up Wild participants, again, 79% of you are going to be Caucasians. The demographic of those hunters, 88%, and then the demographic of our anglers are going to be 84% Caucasian. So a very, very large portion are still going to be those white constituents that we're reaching. All right. So to broaden our diversity, one of the things, underserved audience that a lot of people don't think about is going to be our preschoolers. So preschool programming has been something that I'm really passionate about, and worked with a couple other people in some different divisions. We've done some collaborating on this as well. So if you're not familiar, I have an 18-month-old, and this is kind of all becoming relevant now. So teaching about this is even more passionate than I was before. So our preschool programming, we are now virtual. So we've done a lot of classroom presentations. I went to a ton of classrooms before COVID started, and it's getting to kind of pick up now that teachers are kind of getting some things under their belt, but we're all virtual now. We do things such as skulls and pelts, touching, is it alive, is it not alive? So these are all different things that we talk about even in Growing Up Wild. So again, using nature to teach observations, math and technology, engineering, all of those different things, but in preschool form. A lot of our preschoolers and our daycare providers, they also were the ones that did Growing Up Wild workshops, which are now virtual. So I just did 2 yesterday for UNL Science Methods. So these are pre-service teachers, hope to become teachers, I guess I should say, and it is all virtual. It is very difficult to take a game where you would move around and play a game, but you're stuck at a computer desk. So doing that, you have to be flexible, and you have to make it as engaging as you can over a Zoom meeting. So something else that we've also been doing is we have what we call nature tales. So this is me and Amanda Philippi in Parks out in Western Nebraska. We started this program called Nature Tales. Every Tuesday at 10 a.m. we will read a simple book to our preschool audience, and then we will do an activity with them and their caregivers, parents, guardians, whoever joins with them. So today was about snakes. So what we did today is we read a book about reptiles, and we talked about some differences between snakes and turtles. So very, very simple. They only last about 20-25 minutes at the absolute most. But if you're familiar, that's about all their attention span can handle. So we're still getting a great amount of information across, but we're doing it with our underserved audience, our preschool programs. All right. One of the things that we had a huge part in before COVID was doing Becoming an Outdoors Woman. So this is a great collaboration with some different types of education. So Julia Plugi is kind of the one that is kind of the head spearheader for Becoming an Outdoors Woman here in Nebraska. And she had asked us a lot to come in and maybe do some different programs that maybe reached a little bit different audience. So Becoming an Outdoors Woman, clearly reaching that women audience as well, but it's not just hunters and anglers. It's people that just want to be outside. So a well-rounded amount of outdoor education knowledge. So for instance, if you're not familiar with BOW, it's called Becoming an Outdoors Woman. They really target that audience as far as hunting, fishing, target shooting, kayaking, other kind of outdoor recreation events. But I kind of came in and wanted to do some different things. Nature journaling, animal track and scat identification. We were going to have a really cool workshop with Chance down at Indian Cave in September, but unfortunately that didn't go. Talking about fall fungi foraging. So just getting some different aspects with that. But now that we've kind of gotten that virtual ideas with us, we really want to do a nature journaling class. So we have one scheduled for November 10th. So if any of you are interested, you are welcome to attend, male or female, it does not matter. All right, so specifically what we have done as far as webinar and Zoom virtual programs, not only is this reaching a broader audience, but it's meeting just the needs of those people that want environmental education in this digital world. So one of the things that I started is called Science Of, and if you've been at Game and Parks, I probably bombarded you with all those emails that we're having. So it started off as kind of I really want to talk about these topics. How are we going to do this? So we made it into a webinar series. We did round one. We had 6 weeks. Every Thursday at 3:00 p.m. we have different topics that I would discuss. So for instance, we did animal tongues, scats, predators, animal love, all these different things. It's about 40-minute presentation, and it's just talking about different topics in Nebraska. It was very popular and well received. So we are currently now in a new 9-week series. Here are the topics for that one. So Thursday, today's Tuesday. So Thursday, we're going to be talking about snakes at 3:00 p.m. Central Time. And another series is probably going to come in 2021 as well. So it's a great way to reach new audiences. It kind of started out as a way to reach adult audiences, but I've had a lot of classrooms and teachers join in as well because of the topics have been very relevant to what they're talking about at that time. It reaches a huge, wide arrangement of audiences in a huge geographic part too. If we were to do this topic at a library or something in a face-to-face world, we wouldn't be able to reach as many different audiences. I would not probably have someone from Scottsbluff drive 6 hours to Gear Library here in Lincoln just to watch this 1-hour program and then drive 6 hours back. So there are very good pros and cons to having this virtual world, and we're finding that reaching a broader and diverse audiences is one of those perks.
3 minutes, Monica.
All right, virtual trivia night we've also done. This one, we did some pub trivia online. We had a few of them at the start of COVID, and then I think we might try to do a few more coming up here in the fall and into winter, I guess. Nature Tales, I kind of talked about this one a little bit earlier. Here's the themes. We're almost done with our 6-week program, and then we will probably start another installment of that, probably starting in 2021 as well. And then really quick, just some citizen science stuff. We will go ahead, we've done Bird Month. We really use that iNaturalist method as well, that app that we talked about. It's a great way to get people digital wise to use that, but to also record a lot of good observations as well. So we've done Bird Month, we did Pollinator Week. We had over 1,000 observations just for 1 week at Pollinator Week. And then one thing I do want to talk about is tomorrow is the best day of the year because it is October 21st and it is National Reptile Awareness Day. It has been proclaimed by our governor as National Nebraska Reptile Day, Awareness Day. So we had an art contest. We had over 343 submissions that came in, and we all did it digitally. So they took a picture of their picture that they did and they sent it in, and we had 343 unique submissions. So this was a few of them that came in. They were very good, and it was fun to kind of have them up, but it shows that our audiences are engaged in a lot of different things that aren't necessarily just hunting and angling. Social media posts, we all know this one. Since COVID, we've reached over 587,000 people. This is just for our Project Wild page. This is not the Nebraska Game and Parks page. We've had 152 page likes. Our post engagement is up 78%. We're reaching people that aren't even in Nebraska. A lot of places are also sharing our posts. Places from Nebraska Game and Parks are sharing Project Wild's posts. So we're reaching a lot of different places and a new audience. And then videos. We hope to have some videos up soon. Careers in conservation, life cycles. Grace Gard is going to work on some fish hatchery videos. We've done Wild What's Up. A lot of new things coming. And then, yep, I just kind of talked about all that while we were going through this, but reaching a new audience, those interactive lessons, and just more exciting things to come. All right. Any questions?